Meanwhile, was it a tank job? Or was it just the dumbest defense in football history? And which of those would be worse? Inside the Jets, absolute disgrace. And statement performance from Baker Mayfield. What does it mean for the Browns and their brash young QB? All that and more as we get up with you starting right now with the game of the night. Packers, Eagles, pick it up with a minute left in the half. It's 7-3 and Aaron Rodgers. Dan, watch him buying time and finding his man.
This is vintage 12. Hang in the pocket, almost go down, then find that tight end, crossing all the way from one side of the field to the other. Another touchdown for this Green Bay offense.
Packers up 14-3 at the half. Meanwhile, Dan, a forgettable day for Carson Wentz.
Absolutely zero confidence with the football in his hand. Hit that throw, it's a 6-yard completion. It's missed. 3rd and 14, I know. Look at the hanging in the pocket, trying to drive this football to the sideline, but it's high and hot. Why? Because you aren't trusting anything when it comes to playing the position of quarterback.
Went 6 of 15 for 79 yards. Meanwhile, in the third quarter, Packers at their own 1-yard line. No problem. Aaron's airing it out.
What a throw. I mean, before that backside corner gets there, but look at just this catch by Davante Adams. Strong hands, collision, then I love this play. You get that corner to safety to replace, kick it to him on the bubble, and he's got to have the effort and the drive to get into the end zone.
It's a 99-yard drive. Rodgers, the fastest player ever to 400 passing touchdowns. But hold on. The story now, Dan, is this. Jalen Hurts is in and Carson Wentz is out.
And this is something that he did really well. Move the pocket. This offensive line struggling, but climb and then see that defender a little low, put that ball over his head. Finally, Philly in the end zone.
The Eagles get to within 23-10, under 7 minutes to play. Now they're punting. So, Dan, when you don't have a lot going offensively, get it from your special teams. We got a bobble, we got a scoop, and we got a score.
And this is something that Jalen Reagor has as a talent, kind of that yak, yards after catch. Great move on the punter. Pat McAfee would be disgusted with that tackle effort. And now the Eagles are like, okay, maybe we got a chance to go win this game.
But the other team has Aaron Rodgers, and the other team has Aaron Jones. Rex Ryan, how about this run?
Oh, my goodness, man. This guy right here is so legit. He could carry a team himself. Oh, by the way, he doesn't have to. Look at the hustle by his lineman down the field. David Bakhtiari and company. Great run by Aaron Jones.
77-yard touchdown. Packers up 30-16. Then under 2 minutes left, Hurts has to try and find some magic, and he cannot. This one's going to be picked off by Darnell Savage, and that's all she wrote. Aaron Rodgers, 295 and 3 scores. But the story, for sure, is Carson Wentz to the bench. Now what happens? Let's hear from the QB.
I didn't know what the plan was fully. I was just told he was going in for the next play and next series, so I didn't really know what was going on there. But obviously that's frustrating as a competitor, and just the personality that I have. I want to be the guy out there, but it is what it is, and they made the call today, and at the end of the day we lost. As a team we lost, and that's what I think for me I'm most frustrated about.
Okay, so we have probably spoken about Carson Wentz as much as we have any other player in the National Football League over the course of the last few years on this program. And Dan Orlovsky, you have been in the center of so much of that conversation. So on this, the morning after he legitimately gets benched, what is the first thing you want to say?
Carson Wentz is broken, and Jalen Hurts needs to be their starting quarterback next week. I mean, the confidence doesn't come from always being right. Confidence comes from not fearing being wrong. And right now, he just plays fearful football. He's fearful of making the wrong decision. He's fearful of missing throws. He's fearful of making the mistake. That's not his style of football. And this is a quarterback that used to play with a freedom, a confidence, a belief that he was one of the best players on the field. Now, he has no confidence in his game. He has no confidence in the people that he's doing things with. Now, listen, they gave him the biggest guaranteed contract in the history of football, and then within the same year, they drafted a quarterback in the second round. There's a seed of doubt from my general manager. And then in a game where I'm not playing well enough, yesterday, Doug Peterson, my head coach, benches me for that quarterback. There's another seed of doubt. But I have 2 problems with Carson Wentz right now. One, with the lack of communication with the head coach, saying I didn't really know the plan. That's either on the head coach to not have the confirmation in that conversation, or the quarterback to go, what's the deal? The quarterback to go and have that conversation. Then 2, we didn't play this sound, but he said this: a lot of those things are out of my control. Carson, I've had your back for a long time. That's a bunch of baloney. This is in your control.
Boy, you almost cussed, Dan? Dan, did you almost cuss?
You said I call myself so. That's how I deal with my kids sometimes. That's it's
But I
a
do like the thought. Go ahead, keep going, because what about it don't you like him saying that?
Because it is in your control. You control what you do with the football. You control how you lead. You control how you handle things. And in your 5th year in the NFL, you should have the emotional security and the emotional confidence to not care what other people are saying and the decisions that are made around you. And you should be able to have those blinders on, because you can't say it's out of my control. Because at the end of the day, I remember Gary Kubiak saying to me this very clearly. He said to me one day, everything is in your control when it comes to what happens in this organization as the starting quarterback. And so you can't have your play be what it is and then go, some things are out of my control.
Dan, you know what? You know what happened with Carson Wentz? You just talked about things being in Carson Wentz's control. You know what else was in his control? The way that he handled himself after that game. Yeah. At what point, at least during that cut, did we hear Carson Wentz say, you know what? I just wasn't playing well enough. Right. Or you know what? Coach had to make a decision because of the way I was playing, or because my play put us in this position. You know, the ownership we always look for quarterbacks to have. Carson Wentz doesn't have that. And listen, he had backed Doug Peterson into a corner like Nate Robinson fighting Jake Paul. He had to come out swinging. Sometimes you come out swinging, you get put to sleep. Sometimes you win the fight. But that's where Doug Peterson was. And so he puts Jalen Hurts in the game, and he makes the right decision. And Jalen Hurts lights a fire under this team. And they at least look like a team that can move the football and score points. And so now Doug Peterson, going into the next week, has no choice. Jalen Hurts is the starting quarterback of this team. Carson Wentz is the backup. There should be no rotation. There should be no alternating. And that's the way it should be for 4 quarters next week, as long as Jalen Hurts is healthy. And then you make a decision after that game. But Carson Wentz played himself out of this position. Whether he's broken or not, he had the keys to fix it, and he did not. Now it's time to move on for him, at least for a week.
And by the way, they play the Saints next week, who right now may have the best defense in the sport. But Rex, here's what I find myself thinking about. It is just indisputable that Carson Wentz is a more talented quarterback than Nick Foles. But that team played better around Foles. You said this morning you don't think Jalen Hurts has the NFL skill set. But that team clearly, in a tiny little sample size, played better around him than it did about Wentz. What do those things tell us about Wentz?
Yeah, you know, I 100% agree with you on that. And it tells you that, number one, it's not just about the athleticism, that athletic ability and skill set. It's about you. And when he's sitting back there, I look at it this way. He's wanting an explanation. You don't have to get an explanation. You don't deserve. Here's your explanation. You are playing like crap. That's your explanation. And when we talk about, about he's lost confidence. Yeah, and rightfully so. He's got no confidence in his offensive line, doesn't have confidence in his receivers, doesn't have confidence in the play calling, and he shouldn't have confidence in how he's playing. But to me, it's all about the locker room. We all saw it. When Jalen Hurts went in the game, they know he might not be, whoever, Randall Cunningham back there, but I'll say this. They believed in it. They knew it was going to be, at least we got a better chance. And that's how the team played. The whole team picked it up. Special teams, defense, everybody picked it up. They have no choice. Jalen Hurts has to be the quarterback now.
That's 3 for 3. We all of this group here today believes Jalen Hurts should be their quarterback next week. Can we take one moment on Aaron Rodgers, who again in that game became the fastest quarterback ever to 400 touchdown passes. And right now, Dan, it looks very much sort of neck and neck with Patrick Mahomes for the MVP of the league.
Oh, there's no question about it. This is a two-man race, and they're side by side. Patrick Mahomes is playing great. Aaron Rodgers playing just as good. And Aaron Rodgers is doing it probably with a less loaded roster, certainly offensively. Him and Davante Adams are the best 1-2 punch in football right now. Quarterback to wide receiver. They're the best 1-2 punch in football right now. They're seeing the game the same way. They've got a great feel for each other. And I don't think that there's a defense that can slow them down because of that and the reps that they have. There's not a quarterback, head coach, and wide receiver combo that I trust more heading into the playoffs than Matt LaFleur, Aaron Rodgers, and Davante Adams.
super quickly, RC, we've seen that defense look better the last couple of weeks, but against the struggling Eagles and the struggling Bears, do they have enough defense to get to the Super Bowl?
I still need to see more. I need to see more. Jair Alexander's playing extremely well, but we haven't seen them dominate against offenses that we were scared of. Even if you go back to the Indianapolis Colts a few weeks ago and the fact that they were able to score in the mid-30s against this Green Bay Packers defense. You dominate the Bears, you dominate the Eagles, but what will you do against the Rams, against the Saints, against the Seahawks? I'm still not convinced this team is there yet.
Okay, we will take a short break on that thought because I got to get to all the rest of the games. Rex is ready to go. We're talking about the New York Jets. How in the world did that happen?